Another face of the resistance that we looked at is a guy named Neva Roy Singham, currently living in that part of the United States known as Shanghai. Yeah. Singham is the communist equivalent of George Soros. He's what George Soros would be if George Soros had no self-control at all. So, some radical billionaires actually try to pretend to be something other than they are. Neva Roy Singham made a lot of money in America. He then moved to China. He's sitting in a yellow and red office with communist Chinese slogans on the walls, in case there was any subtlety to this at all. And he runs an international network of Chinese communist propaganda groups. He also runs something called the Party for Socialism and Liberation, which I mentioned at the very beginning. His candidate made it onto the ballot in 6 states from an organization that is controlled out of Communist China. We really are rolling over for Communist China. You think Communist China lets American candidates run for office over there? Now, in all fairness, the Party for Socialism and Liberation only got a little more votes than the Prohibition Party. But they also formed a united front with Jill Stein in the Green Party and Cornel West. So the top leftist third-party opposition parties all were actually part of a coalition that is controlled out of Communist China, which is a point you think the FBI would be investigating instead of school board parents or grandmothers. Now, beyond that, Singham controls something called the People's Forum, which was behind much of the pro-Hamas violence in New York. And the People's Forum is now preparing to do inauguration protests in D.C. Originally, you might know them by a former name, which was International Answer, capital ANSWER. They were actually behind a lot of the anti-war rallies during the Bush administration. So we now actually have the major opposition parties from the left that are not the Democrat Party, controlled by China, and we actually have the main force of the resistance controlled by Communist China.